What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you something a little bit different, as I received a package recently from Owlcat Games that contained a wheel cipher, a code wheel, whatever you want to call it, which had a secret message in it. But obviously it was in relation to the upcoming Warhammer Skulls event, which kicks off on the 22nd, and Owlcat has pretty much already confirmed their attendance at that event. In fact, in a recent post over on Twitter, they were talking about a post-show they had planned, and in that post, they mentioned multiple reveals apparently happening there. So I do want to just sort of kick this off by saying, I don't know if this is meant to be for Rogue Trader DLC, or if it's meant to be for a brand new Warhammer game, but I do know it's clearly Warhammer related, and definitely has to do with something they're going to be revealing on the 22nd. So with that in mind, let's get to it. In what was a bit of a surprise to me, Owlcat shipped me a package. They have my shipping information from past times they have sent me things, but, typically they will, of course, tell me something is on their way. So something just showing up out of the blue was a little unexpected, let's say. But upon opening it up, I was greeted with this little wooden sort of code wheel, and right away it was obviously branded with the saying Av Dominus Nox, we have come for you, which are both war cries of the Night Lords faction in Warhammer 40k. More on them in a little bit, but as this was a code wheel, basically the gist of it was you line up these little wheels with the entire alphabet on them in order to spell something out across them, and then of course open up whatever the container is. Now in this case, the password turned out to be Noctis, as there are ultimately only so many Latin words for night. Inside the little container there was a message, though, spelling out, "We watch your hopeless struggle from the shadows. We are closer than you think. With our carving knives at the ready, the children of the sunless world are coming for you." And then, of course, more Night Lords motifs. Now, at the top there in Roman numerals, we get the date for the Warhammer Skulls event, 22/5/2025, though I must say it would be hilarious to me that the Imperium of Man, buckling under the weight of their own many outdated systems, is in fact using the day-month-year formula. Seems a little too efficient, to be honest. So, putting all of that together to, of course, sort of state it plain there, obviously, whatever reveal they are doing has something to do with the Night Lords faction. Again, though, I don't know if this is meant to be DLC for Rogue Trader or something standalone. And to elaborate a little bit more on that, I don't necessarily think it would be DLC for Rogue Trader, primarily because they haven't actually released the second DLC for Rogue Trader yet, which is the last of the confirmed ones. So for them to then come out to this show, announce that more DLC was happening and stuff, and the Lex Imperialis one is already behind, it would just seem unlikely to me. Which means purely on my own speculation, I would assume the Night Lords thing was probably something else. Now, as to what that something else could be, that is also of a bit of note, because we know Owlcat is working on more than one game for themselves, in addition to publishing a couple others, but we also know that the other projects they are personally working on aren't necessarily full-blown CRPGs. They are talking about a few games that are outside of that genre, even though they do plan on fully sticking to CRPGs going forward as well. There's just a possibility that they are going to release something that isn't a CRPG specifically. And I say all that just to simply point out that not only can this be something not from Rogue Trader, but also potentially something not even in the same genre. But seeing how it is currently the 20th, and the Skulls event and these announcements are happening on the 22nd, we're not going to have to stay in ignorance long, as we'll be learning exactly what this is pretty soon. Now, to give a little bit of background on the Night Lords, if you are completely unfamiliar with them, say you just got into Warhammer 40k because of Rogue Trader as an example, you might not know what the Night Lords are necessarily. So by all means, allow me to spend a couple of minutes padding out the length of this video for no good reason by simply explaining the basics. The Night Lords are a traitor Space Marine legion. They are known for brutally decimating the enemy, with a particular focus on psychological warfare and just brutality, violence for the sake of violence. In fact, even before they became a traitor legion, back before the Horus Heresy, when they were still loyal to the Imperium of Man, they were noted as being essentially war crimes on legs. There were many objections to them and what they did long before they ever actually became traitors, though what was at one time violence that had just a sort of hint of righteous justice attached to it quickly became unmitigated violence and brutality for the sake of it. Now, a curious thing about the Night Lords, though, is that they primarily serve their own ends. While they are technically aligned with the forces of chaos, they don't really worship them the way a lot of the other traitor legions do. In fact, the Night Lords seem to look pretty disdainfully upon any sort of faith, and as such, they serve chaos as a whole rather than any one individual chaos god. And perhaps a side effect of that specifically, or just the notion of the gene seed that turned them into Space Marines, they are largely unmutated. But as you might have gathered by now, their big thing is fear and psychological warfare, as they really attempt to break enemies before ever actually meeting them on the battlefield, though typically ambush tactics tend to be a pretty popular approach of theirs, as their unique gene seed allows them to see near perfectly in the dark. Some even possess just straight up infrared vision, alongside glimpses of the future, and those are not powers they got from chaos, just naturally as their particular breed of Space Marine genetics have allowed them to do. But as for today, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Just thought this was a fun little thing I could share with people, as it's certainly a hint as to whatever announcements Owlcat is about to make. In the meantime, though, would sure love to hear your own speculation and theories, not least of which because we won't have to wait long to see if they are correct or not. But like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Let me know what crazy things you think we might see here in just a couple days, but regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.